and get started. If you're tuned, the presentation's up, right? I kind of forgot about it. If you're tuned in on Route29Solutions.org, you can go under the panel meetings tab and advisory panel documents and see the agenda as well as the presentation for today. We have a couple of people not here on the panel that let me know ahead of time that they could not attend, and I think one or two that are running just a tad bit behind, and hopefully we'll be here soon. But it's 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Introductions.
Chip Boyles with the Planning District Commission and MPO.
Morgan Butler with the Southern Environmental Center. Mark Graham, Albemarle County. Henry Weinschenk, Express Commerce Consultants.
Joel D'Annunzio, VDOT Charlottesville Residency.
Dave Covington, VDOT Charlottesville Residency.
Debbie Messina, Philip Chiquette from Purdue.
Linda Cullen, VDOT IT Support.
Al Jones, VDOT Charlottesville Residency.
John Lynch, VDOT Culpeper District.
Lou Hatter, VDOT Communications.
All right, let's get going. I noticed that last panel meeting, more people tuned in. Not sure what was up there, but we had another 11 people that joined the streaming, more streams, and stayed on a longer period of time. I'm not sure what we had on the agenda from my memory, but we had more folks. As far as the comments from the last 2-week period, Lou rustled up 14 emails and comments, phone calls with a variety of questions. One, and this was a person that let us know they were opposed to the RIO GSI project, said that traffic backups have just moved from RIO down to Fashion Square Signal, and that'd be at 29th. Of course, we're watching all of that and think we may have a different opinion, but that was this individual's comment. We did get a total of 5 comments about the temporary lane striping and about it being a bit confusing. And I think we would tell those 5 folks we're seeing some of the same things they're seeing. Dave is on top of that. He and I have discussed it. And there are some final things that need to get tuned up a little bit as this final paving gets done. And this is at the RIO GSI. 2 inquired about removal of the temporary stop sign at Hillsdale and Branchlands. A lot of folks have said, gee, we wish you weren't taking those out. But those temporary stop signs are out. Joel tells me that on the stop signs they are going to add a sign that's a standard traffic engineering sign to alert folks at the stop sign that cross traffic is not stopping. So I think that's a good thing. But the temporary stop signs were temporary; they're out, and we don't have any plans on putting them back in. There were 2 inquiries about traffic signal timing, and Joel gives a little update on that later in the agenda. We've continued to make refinements as ever since the GSI opened, and we've also done some recent timing runs up through the quarter as those adjustments get fine-tuned. We'll hear about that in agenda item 8, I think. One asked wrote in about a tire damage claim, and got them directed over to Lane Foreman. One inquired about a traffic signal not working at Forest Lakes. I think we got that fixed. Yes. One inquired about final paving at RIO GSI. As you know, that's underway now. David, give us an update on that during the project updates. One inquired about the delineators for that continuous right turn, RIO westbound to 29 northbound. Those should be up in the next 7 to 10 days. Those delineators should be in. One inquired about more, and I'll tell you, I really didn't understand maybe everything that was behind this one. just said they wanted to talk to somebody about more signs with arrows and street names at Rio GSI. This was a phone call to the customer service center.
Yes, they felt like there needed to be more directional signs that had street names and directed people toward Rio Road as they're coming down 29.
I guess all we can say is that right now, there aren't any plans for more signs. So we'll just, again, we'll continue to keep an eye on some of these things. One person wrote with a lot of suggestions about signs, right turn lanes, and extending left turn lanes in the project area and outside of the project area. It was pretty, I mean, about a page and a half when you printed it out. And, you know, VDOT has those comments and consider them appropriately, but there were things inside the project area as well as outside the project area that the person had some views on. No new postings on the website and no calls in the last couple of weeks. As far as reporting back to you on things that you brought up, that were brought up at the last meeting, one of the comments, and this has come up a couple of times, about you getting some feedback from folks saying, gee, there doesn't seem to be a commensurate amount of information on Hillsdale available. As we talk, part of that is because of the stage Hillsdale's in. But VDOT's project page does have a link to the city's homepage for Hillsdale. Lou and I discussed maybe making some tweaks to the VDOT site to make that if you go into Learn More at the VDOT site, you get a list of all the projects. And when you get to Hillsdale, right now on the VDOT site, there's the 100% plans and some of that stuff, but it doesn't quite have the same what's this project about language like the other projects do. So we may add a little bit of that in and then pull the link up to the city's website up more to the top of the page instead of being the last thing on the page. If you remember the newsletter, the last newsletter that went out in August, it did have a Hillsdale feature article on there about Hillsdale's now's getting underway. Future newsletters will continue to have Hillsdale updates, and then, you know, as construction progresses, we'll have more things to say, and you'll see some of that progress in the updates later today. This came up at the last meeting about using the local lanes on Route 29 to access Gardens Boulevard as opposed to the through lanes. And we talked a little bit about how some of the directional navigational aids, if you put in Google Maps, for example, that you were somewhere south of Rio and you wanted to go to Albemarle Square, it tells you to use the Rio Road exit. If you put from the same origin, if you put in Pi 99-2 on Gardens Boulevard, it sends you through the through lanes, and you have to make that merge. We took a look at this in the field and also talked to VDOT's operations folks and concluded that navigation aids for directions to destinations between Rio Road and Gardens Boulevard to the north and southbound between Rio and Berkmar to the south should send traffic via the local lanes. I don't know if that link works or not, but if you have the presentation online, you can look at that link and just see Gardens Boulevard, Berkmar, and know that distance. And we have communicated that request to Google, Waze, and TomTom to include that navigational direction in their system. I know as of this morning, those changes had not been made in Google anyway. But that was a good comment. I think Kristen brought it up. Henry sort of brought it up the other way from getting out of Gardens Boulevard. trying to get over to Woodbrook, which is, this isn't going to help you with that. But, you know, if those aids direct folks to use the local lanes, that traffic that are going to those destinations, it keeps them on the local lanes as far as visibility to the businesses and out of the through lanes. So we'll watch that and see as that takes effect, how that works. Pedestrian signal timing at Rio, Mark brought up some observations last time. We've taken a look at that, and we'll talk a little bit about that more at agenda item 7. The open period, Chip?
Just came to my mind with one of the earlier telephone or email comments. Are we still monitoring the traffic accidents within the construction? I know we were getting updates on that a while back, and just wondering if they're picking up, dropping off, staying the same.
I think we'd gotten last time through April, if I remember correctly. And I think there's May data available, but because of the closure at May 23rd, I really was hoping to wait until the June data became available. I thought that'd be more relevant. So that's not available yet, so I think the next time we do that was when the June data's available.
So we'll keep it on the agenda for either the 28th or the first one in October, and keep checking up. Thank you, Chip. Anything else, Chip?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Morgan? Mark?
Kind of tied to that, because I thought about the traffic data too, but I was thinking in terms of, it's almost 2 months since we had the GSI open. And typically, I think, it takes about 2 months for everybody to figure out what to do with it, how it's working. And so, how's it working? You know, to the you know, if we were going to look at safe accident data, I would think that starting about now forward is the period we'd really want to compare, looking back to pre-construction. But I was also curious about the other things with this, traffic splits. Does it seem like we guesstimated pretty good on this, or how, and then, you know, just overall how the thing's working? So
I'll let them give their view. I have mine.
Quite honestly, I think for the most part, it is operating well. With regard to the traffic splits, I think that it's closing in on what we thought it would be. I think initially we saw a little bit of two things. The first being people who were afraid to deviate from their traditional patterns of going up to the intersection. That's going to continue, I'm sure. There will be people who just choose to go through the light. And then we also, I think, saw people who were kind of excited to use the new lanes. So we saw a little bit of that jockeying around, people realizing it was open right at the beginning. I think people are settling in. I think a lot of the trucks have figured it out, because a lot of the truck drivers are the ones who drive the route frequently, and they've figured out to get over into those 2 left lanes to bypass the signal. But I think we'll continue to see a little bit more people getting in the habit of either using the through lanes or the local lanes, depending on what their destination is. But I think we are heading in the direction of the splits that we anticipated.
And then associated with that, I was thinking, we don't have the adaptive signals fully implemented yet.
Right.
And I was kind of wondering, and you know, maybe it's not realistic, but it'd be kind of interesting to see how is it working as far as time and signals now, because you've kind of been tweaking with them over the last couple of months here, and then compare that to wait 3-4 months after we have the full adaptive in place and see.
Which will be post-October 17.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then kind of compare them and see, do the adaptives really make a difference?
I think you're going to see when we implement the adaptive. So we're running at least 4 timing plans throughout the day: morning, midday, evening. At night now we're operating in free mode from 11 to 6 a.m. I think some of the concerns with adaptive have been that if the timing in the corridor is consistent and it's working well, adaptive we may not see as much benefit as we did for Pantops, because Pantops is not quite as predictable. So my expectation is you might see morning and evening stay in a mode like it is right now, or as we keep to tweak that, and then you might start running the adaptive phases in the off-peak hours and get more bandwidth. So I'm not sure you're going to be able to look at the whole day and do that. I'm not sure how they're going to implement it there, but I think they're going to use it whatever system works best for the time of day.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was after, is, just where is the
Yeah.
bang for the buck with the system?
Yeah. I think getting the final paving done is important, and in hindsight, may have looked to do that sooner, but getting that done, getting the final pavement markings in, we'll collect this kind of interim traffic count information, about another month, mid-October. So we'll have that available to look at. I think, thanks for reminding us about the traffic, the incidents. Keep those comparisons going, and see where it is. Just from a basic project completion point of view and watching it operate, I would say I haven't seen anything unusual for a project that's, was under construction, now it's open, settling in as final things get developed, and I don't know what we're going to see when we get these counts information.
Yeah.
But
When I go through it, it feels like everything's working like I
Yeah.
thought it was going to.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know, that's me. I may be biased.
No, none of us are biased.
This is not scientific, but anecdotally, from up in Greene County where I live, the folks who I've talked with, many of whom live up there and work south of the GSI in Charlottesville, they are very happy. They like it.
Yeah.
One of the concerns that we had about the striping came from a friend of mine who uses the local lanes because she works just south of the intersection. And she had that experience of the traffic being confused. So I'm definitely getting some reports from people, but the people who use it every day going back and forth to work and all seem to be very positive about it.
I think if we went back and tallied up all the comments we've received since it opened, the top 2 spots would be taken by temporary striping and the 4-way stop sign at Hillsdale and Branchlands. So that tells you something. I mean, those would be at the top. So
One other thing that I want to add about operations. One of the biggest issues that we had before we ever did anything at Rio was the PM Rio Road to northbound 29.
yeah,
I think if there's a success story to be told in the whole intersection, it's that movement. I don't recall seeing a queue on Rio Road since it opened. So I think that's been a big benefit. There's other areas that may not be much different, but that one in particular, I think is.
it's very early, and we still need to watch these indicators.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Henry, and then we'll jump back to Kristen.
One of the inquiries was about delineators on Rio westbound to 29 northbound. What exactly is meant by delineators?
Those posts that you see.
Those rubber pipes?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Those, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they would be in that westbound to northbound
On that island.
turn. To separate between the lanes, between the right turn lane
On
leading into Evermall Square on 29.
on 29.
On 29.
Okay. While we're at that, I think those little islands that are kind of dark gray, they put some markings on the pavement, but the island is still kind of almost in a fog of gray. And I think the curves need to be painted white as well.
Well, we're going to look at that when all the final paving and striping is down. we've got that on our list from the last meeting.
Because I've driven the Kansas City
Yeah.
last meeting, and it's kind of, okay, if I look carefully, there it is.
Yeah.
Then the issue that you mentioned a while ago that I told you last time, getting out of the gardens, trying to
Yeah.
the loads, that's a difficult proposition, and there's nothing we can do. It's just inherent in the design.
It's inherent in that roadway before the GSI was done. The traffic's coming a little faster now.
Well,
True.
before at least you had the platoons given the traffic lights.
Yeah.
Now there is no traffic
Right.
light, so you
Right.
don't have a platoon.
Right.
You can even, if there was a platoon, you couldn't even see it because it's down in the depressed
Yeah.
lanes. So that is,
Yeah, that's a,
it's a different animal.
yeah.
And then my wife reports that crossing 29 is about as time-consuming or more than it used to be on Rio Road, going from Rio Road east to Rio Road west. It's still, it takes us much or more time than it used to take in her perception.
Driving across it.
Yes. That the timing of the lights is shorter, and therefore, before you know it, you go through more than one cycle at times. Which
Okay.
is, I don't drive this too often. She does. Actually, I drive north-south, and yes, I'm one of the beneficiaries of going right through there. She's the one that does more shopping, so she goes.
Okay.
It may be anecdotal or not. But I don't think it-
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We quickly reviewed our panel, kind of people who tuned in. We had bigger audience last time, and we went through the panel, kind of report back on panel feedback, and that covered one item that you had brought up, Kristen, and that's.
I apologize for being late. I had a jail board meeting, ended at 2, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And that was looking at the how navigation aids might send traffic to Gardens
Yes.
Boulevard, and we did some runs out in the field, talked to VDOT traffic ops, and we've requested Google Waze and TomTom to extend the local road
Does it go up and around?
to Gardens, as well as to the south, the same thing for Berkmar. So that someone that was using a navigational aid to get to one of those destinations between Rio and Gardens to the north, or Rio and Berkmar to the south, would be advised to use the local lanes, like Google does now for Albemarle Square.
That's a great idea.
So, well, thanks for that comment. So, and then we were just in the open discussion period.
And the only thing I have is that I also bring news from a spouse who said, weren't the lights on 29 supposed to be a little more timed now? Because he hit every red. And I don't know how fast he was going.
Well, we're going to talk about that in agenda item. That's the reverse side of the green band is the not so green.
The red band. He was in it, and he's a pretty patient guy, but I just thought.
Okay, well, we've got some current recent information to, at least from others' observations, we'll talk about on item 8, I think it is. So, okay. All right. Anything else? Okay.
I think this side of the room should get some sort of attendance award.
These were excused absences. Yeah.
Feels like we're ganging up on you.
I feel abandoned.
I know. You can come over
What's
here.
new?
I think it takes 4 people to balance out here.
Maybe
I think I have to eat my weed.
No. Okay. The lighting is not complete on the through lanes, and I think they've just physically received the parts later than they anticipated, But we hope to see that get finished soon.
I was told this morning they will be operational by Friday night.
By Friday night. By Friday night.
They'll be
Well,
energized,
okay,
done.
that'd be good. That'd be good. Wall staining should start soon. Landscaping and hardscaping's up to 75%. A lot of work on shaping up, reshaping those temporary crossovers, 60% complete. Final paving, you're actually probably bumped a little past 40%
Yeah, I'd say it's
in the last couple days. So
closer to
that's,
75.
yeah, that's on a good path.
Close to 75% now.
75%? Yeah.
It's a lot past 40.
It's a lot. Clicking off some of the punch list items on Rio, at Route 29 widening, still, I guess, some.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yeah.
When are the trees coming in, or going back into the median? The trees coming in there?
I haven't gotten any dates yet, but honestly, October is the good time to plant those. So I think it's probably coming next month.
Okay.
So you won't miss
Mid-October
planting
to
season?
November, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it has to be done by December 2.
Yeah, but you don't want to be planting on
No,
one.
no, that's right.
I'll ask about that, but I think that's a good question.
I actually should have turned the Jack and Moore thing red since it's not finished yet, but we'll hear some more on that. Some paving continues up at on Phase 7 at 29 widening. Additional progress on Phase 2s, 3, and 5. Paving. Berkmar, man, I wish I got a couple of pictures from Lou that were great pictures, and I saw them after I'd shipped the presentation off to Linda this morning, but there's a couple good pictures in here anyway from starting to set those girders. And Rio did get a lot of attention while some great stuff was going on at Berkmar. It's really good. The roadway grading continues on good progress. This steel girder erection is moving very well. And at Hillsdale, continue to bump up utility relocations and this building demolition underway on Hillsdale as well. And there's a couple of pictures there too that we have to share. So good steady progress on all fronts there.
I think the Daily Progress may have confused some people when they printed that the Berkmar Bridge over the Rivanna River was going to be closed for because of construction.
We got a good laugh out of that.
Yeah, they met Rio Mills. I think that was the press release. But
I think there was a lot of people trying to figure out where the bridge
yeah,
was.
like
the bridge to be might be closed. I missed that.
They did correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. I think you had some folks out there, right, yesterday? Did
Yes,
you lose some
both
people?
TV stations
You were
were out
on.
there
Yeah,
yesterday
Good.
morning
yeah,
for the first beams.
good deal. Dave, want to
Doesn't speak for itself yet.
bring us up to date there?
Yeah, just read it.
And I'll rely on you wherever we say 10-2 to give somebody an idea where that is.
I'm not getting rid of all
We know
those
that.
yet. Yeah. Well, good afternoon. I'll just kind of go over where we're at with the projects, and you saw from the schedule, I mean, things are kind of moving along pretty well. Probably already have some schedule updates just of work that occurred today, but for Rio, they're continuing to work on the punch list items. There's just a whole host of little things that they're working on, but continuing the asphalt overlay or asphalt paving. The update on that is they've been paving that at night. So in the past 2 nights, I think, Philip, I gave you this on Tuesday. So since Tuesday,
Right.
All the through and local lanes on 29 are done. Now they need to go back and do the entrances, little connections to Rio, things like that. So for the most part, that's wrapping up early next week. And the pavement striping, they've been doing that as they've been paving. They'll continue to work on that as they pave the shoulders and other areas. Rio-Verkmar signal foundations are going in the ground this week. The through lane lighting, as I mentioned, we talked about that for a while. They had a hard time getting delivery of the light poles. They kept thinking they were going to come in. They weren't being shipped out of the manufacturer, so they are actually on site now. Starting to put those up tonight is what I was told this morning. And activation of the detector loops at Rio and 29 will likely occur tomorrow evening. So, lane closures, nothing different than what we've been talking about. It's generally much quieter out there at Rio than it was before the summertime closure period. So, as we move into other items like the wall staining, those items are, it's going to look pretty routine. Should be pretty peaceful out there at night. So, over the next 2 weeks, I'm continuing with those punch list items, little pieces of curb and things like that need to repair. Wall staining will start the week after next. So we have for all these big items, we have pre-construction meetings where we meet with subcontractors and talk about safety and operations and what their plans are. So we have the wall staining meeting next Monday. So a week after that, they'll start actually staining the walls. Completing the signal foundations and installing the poles and mast arms at Rio and Verkmar, and completing the through lane lighting, which, as we were told this morning, that should be completed Friday night. So hopefully we won't need to worry about that over the next 2 weeks. Don't think we will. No difference in lane closures, 9 p.m., 6 a.m., windy. Any questions about Rio?
Hey, Dave, I know we don't have Best Buy up here anymore, but as far as wall staining goes, back on the sound walls at Best Buy, there are still some areas where there's a fairly noticeable difference between the darker shade at the top of the wall and the bottom of the wall. And I know some of those that were lower are now behind the barrier. But how will that work with the staining? Will that shade differences stay?
Yeah, no, I think everything's going to kind of start blending together as they apply the base coat, and then even more so as they stain the individual quote-unquote rocks.
Okay.
So you should see that kind of.
Remind me again of why that difference is there.
I quite honestly.
Okay, good. That makes me feel
It's porous and non-porous, right?
Yeah, the top are porous and the lower are solid.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's right.
There's a difference between porous and non-porous.
Bill, you took a long time to explain that to us. Now we can explain it to you.
Yeah. Well, you get older. And
It obviously took somewhere.
That's right. Okay.
But there's still staining to occur at the Best Buy project?
Yes.
Yeah.
They haven't
Oh,
stained
yeah.
That's what I thought.
You recall we put that all into one. Actually, Lane Corman is doing all the staining.
Yeah, their subcontractor.
Yeah,
there's hired Hunt Valley, who is the same contractor that did the McIntyre interchange as well as John Warren Parkway Bridge.
And do we have now more pinned down when that will happen? Because I remember we didn't, or at least I didn't.
Well, they're starting week after next.
Week after next.
And I haven't asked them, I know they're going to get started right away on Rio because they have that December 2nd fixed completion date. And they also want to get that staining completed before the weather gets bad. The thing I meant to ask them this morning is, and I'll ask them on Monday to hear what their plan is are you going to have crews go to Rio and crews go to 29-250 and do those at the same time? And then they'll come back later. There's also a couple of retaining walls, the one at Fashion Square, the one at Coles, they get the same treatment, and then the Verkmar Bridge. Yeah, we'll find out about
We'll get it scheduled.
their schedule.
Bless you.
All right, anything else on Rio? Getting close to the end there, so that's good. 29 Lightning, been a lot of work on this. Continuing with the earthwork, the cut and fill on the old southbound lanes and getting those ready to move the traffic back over, southbound traffic over, and then the northbound traffic into the median in November. Rock demolition at structure 1220. Okay, 1220 is roughly in the middle of the project, a little bit north of the middle of the project, so a little bit further north than halfway between Ashwood and North Hollymead. This was an area where they were having some issues with the jack and bore. They ran into a lot of rock, really slowing them down. So When they get to a safe area away from the road, they started open cutting that. So they're chipping out that rock that's in there so that when they push through with the jack and bore, they can just lay the pipe in instead of continuing the jack and bore. It's a lot easier to demolish that rock with an open cut than it is going through a jack and bore operation. So that's why we have rock demolition at structure 1220. So they drilled a bunch of holes in it with a drill and then got in there and they're chipping it out with the hoe ram on an excavator. Median demolition and grading for curb and gutter on the north section of the project. In this, one of the pictures that I have, you'll see they poured probably about 6,000 or 7,000 linear feet of curb and gutter, well, curbing out there for the future median. So now they're doing the two tie-ins, one on the north and one on the south. So doing some demolition up north and extending that curb and gutter up north. Grading the subgrade along the future southbound lanes. Curb backup materials is fill on the backside of the curb, so they're putting that fill material in to construct the future median. A lot of pipes going in just everywhere along the project. Now they've got complete access to the southbound lanes. The retaining wall at Coles is effectively done. They just need to pull all their trench boxes out of there. So I don't think they've done that yet, but they'll do that probably tomorrow if they haven't done it already today. So jack and bore on 8-1, 1220, and then mobilizing to 910. 8-1 is just a little bit north of Asheville Boulevard. 1220 kind of in the middle of the project. 910 just a little bit north of 8-1, so probably 800 feet north of the Asheville Boulevard intersection. 8-1 they're running into rock as well, but not quite as bad as 1220. So that progress is past 1220. And then Lumos connections to the new Virginia power poles. We know that they finished one of those connections, and I was waiting to hear back about the second one. They only had 2 relocations to do, so that should be completed this week or early next week. And this is a location where we've seen some pictures before, but a couple things I wanted to point out. You can see the grading and laying back the slopes on the west side of the road. You can also see this is one of the larger stormwater structures, ponds on the project over here. So this is just a little bit north of Ashwood, picture taken from the west side of the road. You can basically see a lot of the curb that they put in here, constructing this new median area. So when they're finished with this phase, this traffic southbound will be moved over to the new lanes constructed here. The northbound traffic will be moved over to these lanes that are currently hosting the southbound traffic.
And then will the multi-use trail be on that side?
Yes. Basically, the multi-use trail will be pretty much where that, I guess it's a van, some sort of van. So where the existing far right northbound lane is now, that's pretty much where the shared use path will be.
And Dave, when's that next switch again?
November. And this is looking down along all the curb that they've put in. So where the backup material we were talking about, that's this material here. So they pour the curb, there's that void behind it, and they come in here and put in dirt and fill that in. But this is what it'll eventually be, the new median here. And we can see some of our new Dominion Virginia power poles over on that slope. Okay, lane closures this week. They really didn't do any night work this week, so they didn't have any lane closures. When they do need them, it's just one lane. We maintain a minimum one lane in each direction. Next slide. So over the next 2 weeks, more of the same. Continue culvert backfilling. So they're putting in all these drainage structures in. They're backfilling them as they go. More earthwork to cut and fills. Demolish and grade the northern section of the southbound lanes. What we're going to see over the next couple of weeks is right now that taper, they're going to change that a little bit so they can extend their work further north and further south. So these tapers will actually get just a little bit flatter, extend further north and south, so they can get those tie-in points constructed so they can move that traffic over in November. Grading the subgrade, that's putting in all their stone for the future roadway. More culvert installations and the same jack and bore structures, but they're also going to start working on what they call a jacking pit for 11-1, so they're going to have to dig a hole to put their equipment in to jack and bore that pipe under the road. And lane closures to be the same. I do expect that over The next 2 weeks, there'll be a little bit more night work on those two tie-ins, the north and the south, because they're actually moving barrier, they're painting new lines and actually moving traffic to new locations. So that'll all be done at night. Any questions on 29 Mile?
I know they're having some issues with the jacking board, but is it threatening any other critical milestones?
No, it's not. And several weeks ago, we always look at risk every week. We have a Monday morning conference call. I think we've talked about that before. We talk about risk. And when they started hitting that rock and they got down to really low production numbers, we identified it as an item that we wanted to keep an eye on.
Right.
So shortly after that, they got out of some rock and the production went way up, and then they hit more rock and it went down. So where they're at right now, it's not affecting their schedule. We don't anticipate that it will be a problem after we've been monitoring their production for about 4 weeks now. It's slower for them, it's costing them money, unfortunately,
right.
but it's not affecting their schedule.
Okay.
It's not costing the taxpayers any more money. It's part of the benefit of a design build project. Burkmore Extended, so a lot of activity on this project. It has been for a while, but it's really becoming visible now. So what's going on this week, they're constantly working on erosion control maintenance. You know, we talked about this before, there's a lot of space opened up, so they're always repairing silt vents, doing things like that. Cut to fill, that's earthwork. The majority of that project is getting pretty close to the final grade, which is good to see. So all the big fills are in. Now they're just kind of dressing up slopes, and they're actually starting to work on the grading for the sidewalk and shared use path, which is good to see. They are still working on a little bit of rock excavation up on the northern end of the project, a little bit south of Coles. There's a lot of rock in that area. Spillway construction on the ponds, I think they finished all those up this week. They were available. The overhang installations, that's for the bridge structure, so that's what they'll be working on as they finish up setting these bridge girders. They've kind of been assembling all that stuff, getting it on site, and now they're ready to put them up on the girders. That's to keep those folks safe and also to give them a platform to work from, and also to create the form and pour the overhangs on the deck when that's ready to be poured. Form fabrication, that's underway. Those are the stay-in-place forms that go up on the deck to actually be able to pour the deck on top of girders. Beam seat preparations are finishing up, which is good because they're setting beams. Drilling and blasting, just a couple more shots this week and they should be done. Culvert installations along the project, pretty much everywhere. A lot of those are wrapping up, but there's still some work to be done on. Setting the bearings at abutment A and Pier 1, that's complete. I had to have those bearings in place before they set the bridge girders. Those are multi-directional bearings. They're actually quite large and pretty impressive. Splice and pair girders, that's for span C that was completed, because I think right now they should be putting the last girder line up for span C, so all 5 girder lines are now complete on span C. There's 3 spans, so 33% complete, I guess, on that. We talked a lot about beam seats, and so this is a beam seat. I realized that we never really looked at a picture of one of these. And basically, it's just a area that's formed, it's nice and level. It has these bolts in it. This is what the bearings bolt to. So we have these multi-directional bearings because bridges move, so they can't just be bolted down and static, and when they try to move, things break. So I just wanted everybody to kind of get an idea of what a beam seat was. You can see some of the markings here that they've done this, the surveyors have done this on all the beam seats so they can line up the bearings and the beams correctly.
How big on a picture like that is a bearing?
Bearing's probably about 2.5 feet square, and they sit about this tall, and they've got a steel plate on the bottom, steel plate on the
But
top.
just because I can't tell how big that is, like, just with your finger, can you show how, or the light, show how big a bearing is on that?
Well, the bearing should line up.
With this mark.
I don't know if you can see them from where you're at, but there's
Yeah.
these little cross hatches there. That's where the bearing
So is that one bearing, or is that?
Get one.
Okay,
So each beam seat, there's 5 per pier.
okay.
We'll get
So
a
that's
bearing.
an area that's like 2 feet by 2 feet, something like that?
Yeah.
4 square feet.
Yeah. So I know these things are hard to picture in your head, because as you're driving by bridges, you're probably not trying to look
Well,
at
and
it.
there's no perspective about how big that is.
Oh,
Is
sure.
it 10 feet wide or is it a foot wide?
Dave, I can email that photo from yesterday afternoon of the workers setting one of those bearing plates.
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
I know how
Yeah.
big people are.
Yeah, email it to, well, can you get it right there, Linda? Or, yeah, why don't you email it to Linda?
Okay.
See, that's what happens when you offer to do something.
Yeah, now you have
Be
to do
done
it.
right away. So, also, that's fine, you can go to the next picture.
Yeah, we can come back to it.
I included this picture because I wanted everybody to have a sense of scale, which I didn't do in the last picture. And you can actually.
Well, there you go, right there.
These are the bearings.
Yeah.
That, okay.
Yeah, so
Oh, so
underneath,
it's kind of a.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
yeah. It moves, they don't.
Yeah, spend some
these-
time on that a little
Yeah.
bit, because, you know, because they do move.
Yeah, but these bearings in particular, there's several different
My only
types of
experience is
bearings.
ball bearings, and I was trying to figure out how that was going to work, so that.
Yeah,
worked.
there's several different types of bearings. These don't really rotate,
Okay.
but they translate. They move in the horizontal plane, because these are big, long steel girders. And we all know that when you heat steel up, it expands and contracts. And so as the steel expands, these bearings allow it to move without coming off of a beam seat or something like that. So this allows the bridge deck to move because the abutments and the piers can't move. So you have
Essentially,
fixed objects
Concrete
and moving
like
objects.
a rubber mount on a car engine, to a certain extent, just
Yes.
scaled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all there to allow everything to move, because when you have things moving and things that aren't supposed to move, then something breaks. And that's what we try to prevent.
That's why the bearing is bolted to the beam seat,
Right.
And then
which is,
the girders will be welded to
Bolted,
bearings.
welded.
So you have a bearing that can move, but it's fixed on top and fixed on bottom, and everything in the middle
Inside of
can
it.
move. Yeah. But they're pretty heavy duty. You're not going to go pick one of those up. They're pretty
How
substantial.
long does the rubber,
Sorry?
whatever it is, the elastic material last? Do you have to eventually replace it
Yeah.
after a number of years?
We do. I mean, that's part of the maintenance process, inspecting and making sure they're not worn out, and periodically they are replaced. Now, the fortunate thing is, basically, they come in here and they just jack it up slightly so they can actually remove the bearings and then put new bearings in. But, I mean, they'll last every bit of 30 or 40 years. But we hope to get 50 years out of them.
Just curious.
Mhm. But they have,
It moves back and forth and heats up and whatever, over time. Would be great.
Isn't there, those have steel on them too, right?
yeah.
well, they have a piston. They have a piston system which has, it's sealed so that water doesn't get down inside of it. And that's our biggest challenge on bridges, is keeping water out of things like the bearings. You'll also see that the ends of the beams and the fascia girders are all painted. So any area that could be exposed to water is painted, but this is weathering steel, so it'll have that rustic appearance, as all of these steel beams are. This is
Just go ahead and talk a little bit about the diaphragm, and maybe to some folks it's obvious why you set them that way, but maybe to others it isn't.
Well, you know, the cross members here, you can see, so these two girders were set together. So on the ground, they installed these cross members, and they're spaced periodically along the girders. They had all that assembled on the ground, lifted both of them up, swung them in place, and then held that with a crane. The next beam, the long girders, same thing. There was two of them with the cross members. Picked that up, attached it, spliced it, and we'll have a picture. Do we have a picture of the splice in this one? Maybe not. But,
The next one has.
yeah, it's just one of the beam, but the splices, so as they put them together, they put all the bolts in for the splice, and then do the next section, because there's actually 3 girders per line that are installed in this first span. So what we're looking at here for these 2 girder lines, there's 6 girders or beams that are part of that. And it all gets put together in the air. So that's pretty tricky, and there's a company.
And the crane just holds it until it's hooked together?
They had 5 cranes working simultaneously to hold all that and lift everything in
So
place.
the next picture does kind of show that.
Does it? Can you go to the next one? But just on this one real quick, the reason that I wanted to show this one is to give you a sense of scale. These beams are 8 feet tall. They're big. You go to the next one, Linda. Okay, this is where they're splicing right here. So we've got one crane holding this up. We've got another crane holding this one up. We've got another crane that's swinging the last section into place. The last section was not placed in pairs. Those beams were set individually, and then they put the cross members in. The only reason they did that is because of the capacity of the cranes.
Oh.
The orientation of the pier, all that, the location that they had to put that beam in, they couldn't lift both of them at the same time, so they did them independently.
But they would not leave a single beam up.
Oh, no. In fact, all this stuff is calculated out. We have a erection plan that's several hundred pages that steps through all of this. They have to have 3 girder lines up. They actually couldn't leave just 2, so when they were done yesterday, there was 3 complete girder lines spanning from abutment B to Pier 2. And that has to do with wind and all those different things. They have, I don't know if you can see any of them, but they have flags, they have anemometers that measure wind speed. So if it gets over 15 miles an hour, everybody has to stop. Fortunately, we haven't had that kind of weather. Everything went very well yesterday, but this cage here, you see 2 of them there, they're actually doing the splices. These are massive splices too.
Is that bolts and welding both? Or?
They're not welding them, but they're bolting them together. And all these came pre-drilled, prefabricated from the manufacturer. So it's, I want to say there's 180 bolts per girder per splice. There's a lot of bolts to put in place to get all that as one complete unit.
Did that torrential rain the other night cause any problem in this project?
When did we have torrential rain?
Maybe it was just at my house. It was a big wall of storms that came across.
Friday. Was it Friday?
Well, no, Saturday night, maybe Sunday night.
Last Friday.
And last night.
No, it was last night. Yeah.
Oh, last night, yeah. Well, fortunately, we were just outside of the rain.
A long time ago.
They had rain here. It wasn't real heavy from about 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then it stopped.
Okay.
So
The rest of it must have fallen on my house.
Were you further north?
In town.
Oh, in town. I think you were right on the line.
Just my house.
Oh my God,
It was just your house. But not that many years ago in a state, not Virginia, that I won't mention the state because it was really a tragedy. But a similar operation, and for whatever reason, a single beam was left on piers without these cross members, because this gives it stability, right? And across of an interstate, and it fell as a result of a storm, and it fell on top of a mom and a young one car on the interstate, just at the mom and a young daughter, and they didn't make it. So, you know, what you're doing matters a lot, and doing it right matters a lot.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we have such a detailed plan for how this structure is erected, every step of the way, every bolt, how they're installed, and we have people that go back through and check and make sure. What makes me feel very comfortable about this operation, the company that's doing it, High Steel, is probably one of the best in the business. They really know what they're doing. You can just watch how they do things out there. There's no questioning about it. It's a very safe operation. So we're very happy to have them here doing it. Very professional group. It might be the end of our pictures on Brook Farm.
I have that other picture.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Let's go ahead and show the Lou Hatter picture. Okay. Now they made him send it.
I remember when I was young, one of my favorite toys, if you will, or things to play with was, I don't know if y'all remember, a Rector set.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to
It
mention
looks like that, yeah.
It was my favorite thing to play with, and that's probably why I enjoyed that so much.
Just a scaled-up version.
Yeah, see here, you can see the piston there.
Higher
So
stakes.
the top plate and the bottom plate, and they're bolting it to the beam seat. And that portion in there is what allows it to move. And it has copper sealing rings in there, so water doesn't get in and start eating away at the rubber piston.
So does it stay elevated off the concrete like that, or does it go all the
No,
way down?
it goes all the way and sits on the concrete. There's actually, they put an elastomeric bearing pad, which is kind of almost like a rubber pad underneath it, and it sits on that. And then that just allows it to provide contact to the entire concrete surface.
On the pier in the background, you can see one of those.
Oh, I see,
already
yeah.
set in place.
Yeah, there you go.
And you can see here, they're lifting these with cranes. They're not light. It's, you know, inch thick steel or more. Yeah, actually more. It's probably almost 2 inch thick steel. So pretty heavy duty there. But it's interesting. These are the things that most people don't realize. And probably if you're sitting on a bridge, I know Free Bridge moves quite a bit. When you're sitting on it and you feel trucks go across, you feel it moving.
And that one kind of like this, too.
Yeah.
And these guys are what, 80 feet in the air?
No, these are probably 40 or 50, because the max height over the river is about 80 feet, so they're probably about 50 feet in the air doing
And they're
this.
harnessed?
There is, you can see it right here, there's a line that goes across each one of the piers that they all clip into. He's clipped in here. I can't quite see his.
See
I
his
think
harness
his is
on his
right there.
back.
Everybody's 100% tied off at all times for fall protection. Yeah, it's OSHA requirement. Still a dangerous operation,
Absolutely.
but nobody's going to be falling off bridge piers or anything out there. So,
No fear of heights, those guys.
not at all. This is a small bridge compared to some of the things they're used to doing. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Okay, lane closures. So we talked last time about some upcoming lane closures on Ryan Mills Road, and that's what started this week. They did implement, they've had a flagging operation periodically. They've had some short-term closures from when they brought in the cranes and the girders. And these are 300 to 500 ton cranes. They're pretty big cranes that have to be assembled on site. And then Wednesday and Thursday, yesterday and today, when they were setting the girders, they had a closure from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That went well, and then tomorrow they'll have a closure from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For the same thing. So now they're wrapping up all that, the erection of the girders for span C over Ryan Mills Road. Then they'll move on to the other spans. So, next slide. Over the next 2 weeks, we've pretty much got all the same activities here. We've got some more, some plates that cover these stormwater structure plates, or you're using stormwater structures as temporary erosion control structures, so you have to dam off the lower sections so you get sediment actually filtering out of the water before it goes into streams. The overhang installations we talked about, form fabrication and beam seats. I think they've got Pier 2 done, and they got a little bit more left to do on, Pier 1, and a little bit more left to do on Abutment A. Drilling and blasting, various culvert installations, continuing that, installing the bearings at Pier 1 and Abutment A. I think they're a little bit ahead on that. The picture that Lou had was them installing that bearing on Pier 1. Splicing and pairing more girders, setting the girders on span B. And the back wall construction will start pretty quick. And what that is on the abutment, they're building a wall behind where those beams come out. So they couldn't do that until they get the beams in place. Same type of closure situations. We do have Tuesday through Thursday of next week. They'll have the closures on Ryan Mills from 10 to 2. In general, that's pretty much a lot of these beams are being stored on the south side of the river, and they bring them around, bring them down Ryan Mills Road, pick them off the truck, set them in place. And that's what those closures are. Any questions on Burkmar? No more bridge questions. Okay. Now you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Hillsdale?
Sure.
I think we got some pictures here on Hillsdale too, so that's
Yeah, we do.
good news.
We do. Maybe not quite as exciting as Burkmore, but nonetheless.
You're getting there though, Al.
Nonetheless,
Tearing stuff down is almost as much fun.
it's unique. We're cutting through a building, so that's nothing to laugh.
Nothing to sneeze at.
Very well. Hillsdale, going along pretty well. Environmental controls are still being installed along the project.
What does that mean?
Mainly erosion sediment control, silt fence, some of those types of measures for dust control, sediment loss. Utility relocations continuing. I saw Dominion out there this afternoon working in the Pepsi place area. Continuing with building demolition, and we do have a couple photos there of that to show you. Removing the fence along the Pepsi plant. If you remember, the roadway's going parallel to the north side of the west side of the building, and they have a security fence that's taken down. They're putting temporary fence up. That area has to be built up with the retaining wall for the road on that west side of the building. Excavation and embankment is underway, and there's a photo in here showing that on the north side of the Pepsi plant. Phase 1 clearing along the alignment, and drainage structures 10-7, 10-8, and 11-3.
Now you get this.
Now I have to. I had a little bit of warning. These are on the south side near the Homewood Suites Hotel. So between the Whole Foods and the Homewood Suites on that south part of the alignment. No significant lane closures this week. Okay, here's a shot inside the building, looking to the south through the building. A lot of work inside that they had to do, and they've been taking this out, a lot of it by hand, I think, to keep noise down and keep the adjacent business owners and customers happy. But
What's the nearest operating business to that?
Just on, if you're looking south, just on the left here is Nail Expo, and just on the other side, actually there are two spaces here, so probably another space over here is Ebony Images that was relocated from this space. So they're right beside this world.
So there was a business inside this space.
There were two businesses in the area being demolished. One was relocated just to the west in an open space, and the other's across the lot on the near where the Kroger's going to be. So on that, I guess, the south leg of the shopping center. Next picture, you're looking to the north from the outside here. So this is the front face, what used to be Ebony Images and Cosmo Pro. So to the right is Nail Expo, to the left is Ebony Images. So a lot of facade work being done. Well, that's okay. Here is, on the left you can see the Pepsi building. This is looking south. The post office is behind the trees, and this is part of the roadway embankment. Here's a storm structure in place here where the road will be built up just to the right of that Pepsi building with the retaining wall there.
So is that a UFO thing?
Looks like a bird or a
Drone.
Maybe it's a plane taking off over the airport. I'm not sure.
I'm still amazed that you found that much space between the post office and Pepsi. I would thought that there was.
It's a tight corridor through there, very, very tight. It is. For the next 2 weeks, installation of continuing to install E&S measures, utility relocations, they're still ahead of schedule. Building demolition, I would expect about 2 more weeks of that work before it's completely cleaved. Phase 1 clearing continuing. They're working on different areas. I think they're starting to look around the storm management pond now, that area, for some clearing. The excavation embankment work. Drainage structures will continue where they have space. Demo of pavement behind Homewood Suites. That's, as I mentioned, that's an area where they're working on some storm drain work. So they'll begin to tear up some of that old parking lot area back there for the road work. And there's sanitary sewer work scattered throughout the site. I think Longest stretch is probably Greenbrier Drive, but mainly there are small segments that are being relocated just a little bit. That's a manhole adjustments. No significant lane closures anticipated now. Any questions?
Go back one, Linda.
Any questions on Hillsdale?
Well, you're probably sick and tired of hearing me. Now that you have worked on the schedules and so on, the possibility come up of expediting the northern section between Whole Foods and Seminole Square.
The south piece there.
The northern piece, actually. Between Whole Foods and Seminole Square, where
it was,
you don't have to cross a bridge, you don't have to move a pond.
I know that was discussed, the pros and cons. The construction of the roundabout was a critical consideration for that, and having traffic in the area when roundabout construction was to begin. The schedule comments have been submitted. I don't think there's been a revised schedule put out yet, but we continue to get updates every couple of weeks or so on schedule. But right now, I don't think, I'll have to check.
I don't think that's the plan.
I don't think that's the plan.
It always looks like
they wanted to get out of that.
I realize that once you open it up, if you're still building the roundabout, you can't do it. But if you can build the roundabout and make the connection after you did the roundabout, you probably can open that up to the public much quicker than the rest of this thing. I predict that it's going to take a lot longer. You're building a bridge and moving a pond. You're doing a lot of things.
So as you can see, they're working in several different areas.
This could be your GIS, the one you do real quick.
We hope so.
Could be. Anyway, I already said it.
They're trying to finalize that schedule.
But I think just so there's no misconception.
Right.
We're not going to tell the contractor to do that.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Is that right? We're not going to tell them.
And quite honestly, the way, if we talked about this before, we talked quite a bit about risk. You know, the contractor, part of the reason why they went in to demolish that building first is because that's where they saw a lot of risk. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way, reduce some of our risk, look other places. They may choose to do that, but directing them to do that puts us in a bad contractual position.
It looks to me that it's pretty logical that you could do that fairly quickly and then concentrate on what's going to take time regardless. It's a little bit like the GSI and Berkmar Extended. I mean, they're like two different animals. But anyway, I've already said it like 5 times.
I disagree.
Okay. How are you getting excited, man? That's good. Thank you. Thank you. Back in the report on panel feedback, one of the comments Mark brought up 2 weeks ago was the pedestrian signal timing at Rio, and he had done a few trials and said, you know, man, something seemed a little off here, and we probably owe Mark a check or something, because the long and short of it was he was right. So we had Dave sent somebody out there to do some trials toward the end of August, and you kind of see the results there.
The 22 minutes.
You know, 10 minutes, and this is going from SunTrust, you know, across Rio, across 29, up to CVS. So 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, back and forth. And then 22 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And then I give up, I'm going home. Because he waited so long to get across 29 southbound. And then went back out on September the 1st in the morning, crossed one time, 7 minutes.
Wow.
25 minutes. So, yeah, something needs adjusted there. And I think, Dave, we said that should be about a 7 to 10 minute deal I mean, obviously, it takes some time. You have to wait for all the traffic, but something needs adjustment there. And
If you hit it just right, you can get numbers like the 4 to 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
7 to 10 minutes is
Yeah.
probably what should be expected. Anything beyond that, there's probably an issue.
But not 22 minutes and 25 minutes or.
Not where you could walk fast.
And I think Mark even had one where you said you
Yeah, I
you
had
just
the
quit,
same
you
thing.
just gave up.
But I also watched somebody else cross Rhino Road on the east side who got tired of waiting, and he basically walked out into the middle to the meeting, stood
Yeah.
at the median with cars going past
Yeah.
him, waiting for the opportunity.
Well, Dave's talked to, Lane County has this information. They need to make some adjustments. This is on them to get right.
Well, and it is on them, but it's also on, they used a new controller. Siemens develops a lot of the controllers that are used throughout the state. And so there's a bug somewhere, and so they need to do a software upgrade, and they're working directly with them to fix that
Yeah.
situation.
So we'll keep.
Just glad to know I wasn't crazy.
You're not crazy. Nobody's crazy. Thank you. So we'll stay on this and report back to you until we have this figured out here. And thanks for sending our main guy Andrew out there. We need to bring Andrew to a meeting again
I
sometime.
hope it wasn't too hot when you stayed down there.
It was.
What did you do?
That's why I gave up and went home.
I think that's why I sat in the truck for air conditioning. Joel gives a little update on signal timing observations and adjustments. And do you have that information that we got from Grant this morning and on the runs?
I
Yeah,
summarized it.
okay,
I made it a
cool.
little shorter.
Cool, good
That's
deal.
okay.
Good deal. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, so I'm going to go over a few things here. One about what adjustments we've made since they opened the Rio grade separated intersection traffic, what we're currently reviewing, and some observations I've made along with Andrew made some observations himself in the past couple of days. I haven't had a chance to go over Andrew's observations that close.
Okay,
I'll go over mine.
Yeah, I've got those.
Okay, so starting on July 18th, about July 18th through the 25th, we were making individual adjustments to signals out there, as we saw. One at Rio Road and 29, Rio and Berkmar, and then again at Rio and 29 about a week later. We weren't really looking at the whole corridor at that point, so we were looking at individual signals as soon as it opened. Then on July 25th, we made some adjustments at Rio and Mall and Albemarle Square, that signal over on Rio that goes to Albemarle Square and Fashion Square Mall. Starting July 27th was the first time we actually re-implemented the corridor timing plan, all the way from Hydraulic to Airport Road. And then early August, we actually, from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., we took the corridor plan out of sequence, and we actually put it in what we call running in free mode, which means each signal runs individually at that point, because you don't have a lot of traffic on 29, and we're getting complaints that side street traffic was just sitting there waiting while there's no 29 traffic. So it's a typical thing at those midnight hours to go in a free mode at that point. August 19th, we implemented some more timing changes. At that point, we actually implemented a morning corridor, midday, and an evening timing plan to the corridor. And then on August 23rd, just a few days later, we implemented off-peak hour timing plan. Now, that's not necessarily the 11 to 6, but that's everywhere that's not 11 to 6, not morning, midday, so it's small time frames in between. And then August 23rd, we implemented some changes to Polo Grounds Road. I think we talked about those at the last meeting, where there were complaints that, well, there was observation that there wasn't enough timing for the people coming out of Polo Grounds taking a left, and there was no traffic on Ryle Mills. So we switched the timing, we switched the phasing of those two side streets. So if there was no one on Ryle Mills, we could allocate more timing to Polo Grounds Road. So those were the changes we made so far. Currently, we're reviewing Woodbrook. Timing changes to Woodbrook should be implemented next week. In addition to simple timing changes at Woodbrook, that's the northbound left turn lanes are backing up, and some other items out there. But in addition to those timing changes, just trying to kind of make that intersection more efficient, our traffic engineers are looking at unsplitting that phase, that signal phase there. What unsplitting means, a split phase signal is where the side streets, all the traffic flows from one side street, left turning through and right traffic, all flows at one time. Then that's all shut down to a red light, and everything coming from the other direction all flows. Now, unsplit phase is where you can have concurrent left turns from both sides, concurrent through traffic, and you can actually overlap your left turn and your through traffic can go at the same time. Unsplitting signal tends to operate, give you a lot more options for phasing, and it tends to operate a lot more efficiently. So what we're looking at, the challenge here is that we can't unsplit the signal without actually making changes to the lane assignments. So if you look at like the Woodbrook School side there, you have two lanes coming out. The left lane is a left turn lane. The right lane is a left through and a right turn lane. In order to unsplit the phase, we can't have the left and the through movement in the same lane. Same with the other side. So you have to have your left turns be independent lanes. So we'll have to make those changes. Now, we don't want to go and make those changes just like that, not knowing if it'll make an improvement. Because there's cost investment. Two, if it makes it worse, it's no good. So we're actually doing some synchro analysis at that intersection to see if unsplitting the phasing there will work better. If we do find that will work better, what that will really allow us to do, it'll make the side street traffic work more efficiently and allow us more green time, not only for the north and southbound movements, but also for the northbound Route 29 left turn phase into Woodbrook. It allows us to hopefully give more green time to those movements by making the side streets work a little bit better. So that'll be a pretty major change to the intersection. We have other unsplitting possible along the corridor because a lot of those signals work and split, but this seems to be the one that we get a lot of. We have a lot of issues with this. This is one that if you go north and southbound, you get stopped at this intersection quite often. My observations, I actually went through. I think I told you a little bit last meeting what I saw. I went through, since we had a football game on Saturday, I drove the corridor 3 times on Saturday before the football game. I actually thought it performed really well. I will say, one of the 3 times when I was going southbound, I got stopped at 5 lights. The other 2 times, I flowed pretty well. So I saw the same thing. I think it's somewhat of a random occurrence that you do that, because normally you can see that you queue up at a certain place. If you come on to 29, you'll probably queue at the next signal, and hopefully you'll get in a platoon. It seems to be platooning pretty well. But there is that occurrence of getting stopped at 5 lights.
Joe said he tried 2 different things. One was to kind of accelerate at the normal pace to the speed limit, and then, he'd hit the red. And then he tried a couple times zooming through, just kind of going from 0 to 40.
That can work against you.
And it almost made it, but not quite. So.
Do you know what time of day that was?
I think it was like midday.
On a weekend or weekday?
I think the trick is drive a little bit below the rest of the traffic, so that you fall.
That's what he usually does, because I'm the
rear of
the jackrabbit starter in our family.
May get synchronized.
We've done I guess the last few days, the last literally the last 2 days.
Yesterday and today.
The last 2 days. How many more were today? 2 more?
There were 4 more today.
Oh, 4 more
He's
today.
actually probably out there right now doing it again.
So that's about 12, 13.
We got 10 right here.
10 trials here.
And he'll probably do 4 more this afternoon.
And this is from Angus between Angus and Town Center. And of all the ones that he's run so far, they've been between 9 and 13 minutes. Faster than you can walk across.
Definitely.
9 to 13 minutes. And generally 3, hit 3, sometimes 4. One time 5 lights, but it was one of the 9-minute runs, I think, or maybe a 10-minute run.
It was a 13-minute.
It was a 13-minute run.
But
I'm sorry.
The interesting thing was, this isn't in the data on the sheet, but when I talked to Andrew after he did it, this was the last one that he did in the afternoon yesterday, so it was at 4:37 when he started, and there were 2 things going on. The first one was the traffic was pretty heavy, so people weren't driving quite the speed limit.
That was the northbound one, right?
It was northbound.
Yeah.
So it was in the peak direction, peak hour.
So in other words, if you go too slow, you get,
Well, it has to do with the platoon.
Yeah, exactly.
So what he said was, he would pull up to the stoplight, stop, and it would be like 3 to 5 seconds and then go. That's why it only took 13 minutes. So it wasn't like he was hitting every stoplight, sitting there for 2 minutes, hit the next stoplight, sitting there for 2 minutes. But he hit Hydraulic, Seminole Court, 29th Place, Polo Grounds, and Town Center.
Yeah.
But for the most
So it's
part,
still a 13-minute run.
yeah.
on average, it was 3 to 4
Yeah.
signals that he hit, which I think is pretty good. It was consistent. Midday is, Joel talked about having the different timing plans, and the thing that we've noticed at lunchtime, midday, it's almost like chaos. There's not a defined direction that everybody's trying to go. Everybody's going every which direction to run whatever errand they want to quickly do at lunch. So that tends to be a little more, time when you can hit some weird traffic cycles. But I think what so far I've taken from this is we might not be there quite yet, but we're pretty close. We're getting pretty close. And the other thing that I wanted to mention real quickly, at Woodbrook, I've been keeping an eye on this. We have a portable camera up there, and I've been watching that pretty closely because I know Pete brought up some concerns about it. And after we made the last adjustment, after Pete brought those concerns up, it was working really well. The queue would fill up. It wouldn't extend out into the through lanes, but with the adjustment to the signal, it would flush the entire queue. Now the problem, and the reason that NWRO is looking at some options there, is the signal on Woodbrook at the entrance to Seminole Square and Lowe's. So you have so much traffic going onto that side road, now you have to get those people off. So they're looking at not just making adjustments to Woodbrook and 29, but adjustments to Woodbrook at the entrance to Seminole Square, or excuse me.
Yeah, not Seminole.
No, what is it?
Rio Hills.
And I assume that it's partly a convenience and a just kind of quality of life issue, but it's also a safety issue, right? Because if people know they're not going to make it, more people run the light, and then you end up with
Yeah. So when you see that last car in the queue make it through the light, that's a good
thing.
Because you reduce the desire.
The next
for
person
people
isn't
try
going to
to
run
a
through.
red light. So that's been pretty consistent. It's been working pretty well. And just to reemphasize what Joel said is if you can split those phases, unsplit, thank you, you can allocate some green time to other directions. So what I saw in Andrew's trial runs was a lot of hitting Woodbrook. So if we can add a little more green time to that north-south, then maybe we free up one more intersection that can be coordinated better.
If you all decide to do that unsplitting, Julie mentioned there might have to be some lane remarkings or redesignations. How long do you anticipate that change would take to implement the whole before it's operating? Is it a big deal, or is it like a...
As far as making the signal changes, I don't think it's anything more than reprogramming, but I'm not entirely sure what they would put in the box. As far as pavement markings, you just mill the existing markings and place new ones. It's thermoplastic arrows, basically, and then we have to review the signs. So I mean, that's a short turnaround. It's not a big deal to do, but it's not as simple as like making a timing change and then reviewing it and then changing it.
Like these other changes we've been doing.
Once you do this, it isn't just turning a button, or turning a knob. This is making some lane assignments and things. So I mean, you're talking about weeks. We can do it within a week probably, but.
Well, all the changes to make it happen would have to happen every night, one night, because you'd have to come through. You can't phase that in.
Yeah, good thing.
But the bigger picture of Rio Hills signal, 29 Woodbrook signal, I think that's more of a week time frame. What do we do at Rio Hills? What do we do at 29?
Figuring it all out.
Do it incrementally.
Yeah, so I guess it's more modeling and making sure it can work and implementing, because we don't want to implement it, change it back.
But you could have a scenario where at certain times of day splitting works better, certain times of day unsplitting works
Well, you can still split it or unsplit it, but you can't change the lane assignments.
Right.
So
Once you've changed the lane assignments, you could do either, right?
Yes, you could do either. I'm not so sure that you I'm not, you could split. I don't know if you would go back to a split phase signal at that point. Unless you had, I mean, the only time you would do it is if you had no traffic on one side and all the traffic on the other side, then you want all the flow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think in that, but I think if you had everything over there, you probably would.
What we see is very heavy traffic coming out of Woodbrook from the west and not heavy traffic coming
From the, right.
And that's Kroger Lowe's.
Yeah, yeah.
They're doing good business over there. It's busy.
That's good. That's good.
We like tax dollars.
But this is all the stuff we need to just keep looking at, really getting back to that kind of issue Mark raised up. Well, all right, now we've done a lot of stuff here. How's it, how's it working?
I prefer to say, how much better is it?
How much better is it? We will be figuring that out. I'm really interested in seeing some of these, although we have to be careful what we make of them, but just seeing some of these traffic counts in October that we pick up and see what they're, kind of paste them up and look at them. Joel will stay on top of that for us, and Joel, thanks for summarizing all of that.
You could have read all of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you summarized it. We said we'd give you an update on right-of-way, bypass right-of-way disposition this time. And the numbers in parentheses are, again, the numbers from the last update, which was July 28th. A couple more parcels sold and closed. If you'll remember, back in July, that was a big difference. It was like, went from 15 to 51. So not as dramatic a change, but still a couple more closed, a couple more under contract. As those move up, this moves down a little bit. The number remaining for sale through public advertisement or to adjacent owner is down to 9, and these aren't going to change. Well, someday that one will change. But so still making some progress, and I know one of the Board of Supervisor members was interested in this information as well for a community newsletter. So still, VDOT's still doing what they need to do to work their way through this. And the map that you all might be able to see go on to the next one. Colors on, but I sure can't. is updated. Also by Andrew, who is, there's a guy none of you know that really is getting all of this done.
He doesn't have to come to this meeting.
He doesn't have to come to this meeting, right? He's just working.
As long as he's not doing it while he's driving.
You actually met him. He was here for a couple of meetings. Was that this panel or the last one? I think early on he came into a few. He's a great young man, and he realizes how fortunate he is to really be in on this experience, because he's a real cool kid and is doing a great job.
There is one property that in that lower section that will change, and that's the property on Woodburn Road that we're using for our office that we will, when we're done, sell it back to the.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. The one that's 5 retained will go to 4. So we'll stay on top of this as some things move. I don't know how fast this will change from here forward, but we'll stay on top.
What is the, I know we tried to explain it to me once before, but the condemnation issues category, does anybody have?
Gosh, now can I remember
that? If I can't remember it all, I'll probably tell you.
Yeah.
It had to do with conservation easements that were in place that VDOT mitigated or purchased, and all the attorneys are trying to untangle how do you reestablish the conservation easements that existed there prior to VDOT purchasing. That's my understanding of several.
And some of them were in condemnation at the time they stopped buying it, so they never did anything else. Just they didn't agree on the money. And I don't know how many of those are in there.
not final closeout
Right.
on the sale.
So VDOT had taken possession, so there was never any agreement on the.
You know, what they do, if you don't, I mean, they do the appraisal, they negotiate, and if you don't come to agreement where the landowner accepts your offer, then they file what they call certificate, which
Yeah.
gives us the right to utilize the property. They put the final offer in escrow, so it sits in escrow, and then they continue to negotiate, and if they don't reach an agreement, then it goes to court. But in those cases, they were put the money in escrow, we're continuing to negotiate, the project stopped, and
Right.
it was in.
I think the conservation easements got
Oh, did you?
solved.
Okay.
I think those got solved.
That was the Roswell Ridge property.
Yeah. The good news, Morgan, is there were 11 of them in July, and now there's 9. So.
Yeah, I'm just out of curiosity more than anything.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you afterwards. I don't waste any more time doing it.
And I'm really not familiar with that process, quite honestly. I mean, I am with the condemnation, eminent domain, but like John said, here you were in the middle of this eminent domain process that hadn't reached any closure, but the project stopped.
I guess the people were still living there, and that's why.
No.
They would have,
Just went on
it would have
without-
been just like if they came to an agreement and turned the title over to us.
Right. So they just moved on their way and have never been paid, or they were paid the lower amount and they're still.
I think they have access to the original.
They have access to the amount that's in escrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask just kind of a random question? Not that I never do that otherwise, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are two, one where, I can't even read, Barracks Road, I assume is going north. There's a little red X, and there's another one down below the Ivy Road intersection. What are those for? Do they have anything to do with this?
These down here?
It's easier to see on our copies, but there's an X right here, and there's an X right there, in a little circle.
Oh, there is.
Does it mean anything to
That
us?
might just be a
Or is it just
GIS.
on the map?
It might be something that was just marked in GIS.
She's talking about that and that.
That's a target for the bomb.
You know what it looks like?
Don't even say, please don't. Please don't say that.
I think that's something that's held over from the GIS system. It could be some sort of
Tag.
source that's in the database.
Okay, then I won't worry about it. I just wondered if it was
It
something we
marks
should
the
be
spot.
following. It marks
Yeah.
some spot. There's gold buried there.
I don't know what that is. I have not noticed that. We'll put Andrew.
We'll ask Andrew.
We'll ask Andrew. Yeah, we'll ask
He's in
Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that wraps up our normal agenda. Henry, anything? Kristen?
I
Morgan?
was curious, Joel, you mentioned you were doing some of your test runs on Saturday. I'm just curious to know how it went with the football game and how many large lost.
About
Very slow.
halftime to traffic.
Yeah, I'm glad it is Saturday, because I don't think we'll have that much attendance from here on out. But, I don't know when most traffic is hitting for coming in there. I think it's a fairly large window, depending on, you can get there at any time. So I was really trying to look for window flags, didn't know who was going to the football game, of course. And I saw a number of them, so it wasn't nearly as much traffic as I thought.
But even, I'm more thinking about just confusion, were there any?
I did see, one of the things that we had heard about earlier that was a concern about being in the local lanes and getting over. I got caught up in a person that almost basically stopped in the local lanes. I did notice they had an out-of-state license plate, so I made the assumption they weren't used to it. Every other time I've been through there, I have not been seeing that. So I think it's something that's going to, unless you're used to it,
You mean being in the local lane and not realizing that you could just
Yeah, and this person, they
continue
didn't realize
across?
they could have just kept going.
Right.
So they almost stopped to get into that, it didn't cause any accidents or anything, but it caused a
Yeah.
slowdown.
Yeah, the people like that who come every year and think they know where they're going are probably more
Yeah.
the liability than the people
And I was
who
wondering
just
if it was,
arrived.
if
Yeah,
people just
yeah.
got there and they just didn't know what, they're like, well, I was just here 3 months ago and
Yeah.
it wasn't here, so it could have been that, so next, it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve. But in general, I don't see issues with weaving. If you know where you wanna go, I don't see issues with doing that.
Maybe that was
Lou?
10 minutes into the first quarter.
I think Lou had some feedback on that too.
UVA Athletics has been terrific in partnering. We provided some information about the new traffic patterns, both at Rio and 29 widening, as well as the 29-250 project. They sent that out last week along with their advanced communication to all their ticket holders before they came in for the game. So I've not gotten any feedback from them, but they have been really great to work with as far as making sure that folks who are coming into town. Student Services did the same thing in advance of first-year move-in day and the return of
Right.
students.
But in general, I thought it was less traffic than what we see in the peak AM normally. I think it's just spread out more as well.
Thanks.
Chip?
I don't know if Mark may want to mention or not, but related to the Burkmore extension, Albemarle County is intending to apply for funding to make that connection to Airport Road and actually beyond. So that'll be in the smart scale applications this coming month.
That for this month? Yeah, okay.
I was hesitating just because we haven't really, the board hasn't formally made that decision. But it's one of the things.
It's
they have to
being
slow
considered.
There's a recommendation before the board.
Yeah,
They
okay.
better hurry.
Yeah, that is this month, isn't it? Okay. All right.
Not for tonight or for today, but I would, and this is just a quick answer, but one thing I would like to hear is kind of, this seems like a really amazing company that's been doing all the, the Lane Corman folks and all the subcontractors, but kind of how many accidents there have been and how many injuries there have been and kind of how that has gone.
For the workers?
Yes.
I don't have all the numbers here in front of me, but I can tell you this, that overall, we're extremely pleased with the safety with the project.
But we could give her a reportable, report the number.
We can certainly
reportable.
get that for you.
Yeah.
That'd be great, because I just, there's so many people involved, both from out of town and also local folks.
Oh, yeah.
It would be, I think, good for the public to just kind of hear, kind of how it's gone now that some of the bigger stuff is at least underway.
I have, actually just this morning, every time we meet weekly to have big picture discussions about everything. And then obviously our smaller meetings, but the other thing, we've been extremely happy with their safety performance, their records, but the other thing is they're very forthcoming with information about when there are injuries. In fact, just this morning, they brought to our attention an injury that occurred last week. It was very minor, but we really appreciate them not trying to hide anything and being very upfront. The injuries that have happened have been, for the most part, very minor.
Not that it's taken lightly.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I figured we would have heard if there had been horrible catastrophes.
Well, all companies have to keep track of it.
Right.
And
Right.
report to OSHA once
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing.
Kristen, you weren't here when we talked about this when we were starting the project, but we reported some of the recordable rates for the two companies, Lane and Corman, that formed the joint venture, and they're very good. And I think that they've lived up to that safety culture. It can always be better, but I think, quite honestly, that they've done a good job. And we've been very, I don't want to say fortunate, because it wasn't by luck that we haven't had any major injuries. It's been, that was planned.
Well, maybe.
But they have to report everything. The cut gets reported. Anything, a little bit of.
It's serious. It's serious business.
Well, we had two sprained ankles, and those are recorded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So somebody.
But maybe we can,
The
maybe
person
Jason
that
would
was
want to
lost.
come and give a little update on that, or
Yeah, we
or just give that,
That'd
yeah.
be great. And
Yeah.
if it's not available that quickly, just whenever it is, but I would really like to hear it.
You could make a phone call and get it any minute of the day, but we'll get it, okay? Yeah, that's a good thing to do.
We also have to report it to the state as it happens.
The big thing, though, was over the summer, in the Rio work zone, as congested as it was, how many
All the
people
traffic around.
were working in that confined area to.
Well, it goofed up a nice planned tour, as I recall. I mean, we just
Too
couldn't.
safety conscious.
But
to let
to
us
come
in.
out of there and have
Yeah.
everybody go home at night and
Yeah,
to their
it's a
families.
big deal.
It was fantastic.
It's a big deal, and I'll tell you, boy, it's real painful when it doesn't work out that way.
Can we get a tour for Burkmar Extended someday, maybe?
Yeah,
Strap us to those ropes and.
yeah. We'll slide you across one of these.
Yeah, I think I'm passing that.
Bungee jump from the.
Yeah, we can do that again, couldn't we? Go back out,
Also, most of us have an idea what that corridor looks like.
Yeah.
North of the river. If
Yeah.
it's possible, I don't know if it is.
I mean, we can drive the alignment.
yeah, we can drive the alignment now.
Yeah, it's drivable.
Maybe not one of Brad's buses.
Oh, well, yeah.
Couple SUVs.
Yeah, we'll put that together pretty soon here.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. And also, come down, at least drive through 29 Widening.
Yeah, well, the widening,
We all drive.
a lot of us
Yeah,
do that all the time, like.
yeah, that's true, that's
You
true.
would
Yeah, if you're on
go
29,
to
you're,
on the
yeah,
West side, everybody saw it.
yeah. We can have it narrated.
Yeah.
And
Audio
start
tour.
taking the pictures for us.
No. I'm driving, remember. I'm not gonna stop.
Okay. Well, very good. We will put that together, and we'll put that together soon. And our next scheduled date is, what's today, the 8th, the 22nd? 22nd. So, okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to scratch that down. That's a good idea.